"We're giving the money to Brent," Dad said like he was reading the weather. Then he pointed at the door. "Now get out, you're fired." I just stared at him, my mouth went dry. "So, you sold my parents' company," I said, and Mom laughed like it was a cute joke. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and cheap cologne. The long glass table was so polished I could see my own face looking back, pale, shocked, and stupid. My hands were shaking under the table, so I shoved them into my lap and dug my nails into my jeans to stay quiet. Dad didn't even flinch. He sat there in his crisp shirt, acting like I was some random employee who messed up a report. Mom leaned back in her chair, calm as ever, her lips curled in that little mean smile she saved for me. "We sold our company," Mom said, slow and sweet. "And we're done listening to your drama." "Drama?" I snapped. "I built half this place?" Brent sat 2 seats down, pretending to look sad. He had that fake concerned face on like he was about to offer me a tissue, but his foot was bouncing under the table. He was excited. You could feel it. I'd known Brent was slippery, I just didn't know my own parents would grease the floor for him. I looked at the people in suits at the end of the table, 2 attorneys with neat hair and blank eyes and 1 accountant type with a gray notebook. They didn't look surprised. That's what hit me hardest. This wasn't a fight, it was a plan. My throat burned. "When were you gonna tell me?" Dad's jaw tightened. "We don't owe you an explanation." I laughed once, sharp and ugly. "You don't owe me an explanation? I've been here since I was 16. I missed prom because the warehouse flooded. I ate ramen in this office while you 2 went on vacations and told people you were working." Mom's eyes flashed, annoyed now. "Oh my God, here we go." Brent finally spoke, soft and smooth. "Look, I know this is hard, but you should take it like an adult. This is business." I turned to him so fast my chair scraped the floor. "Don't talk to me like you're the victim, you're the reason this is happening." He pressed his hand to his chest. "Wow, that's wild." Dad slammed his palm on the table. "Enough, we made our decision." I leaned forward. "Why Brent, why him?" "He's been here 5 minutes." Mom shrugged. "Because he understands loyalty." That word, loyalty, made my stomach twist. I remembered little things I'd brushed off. Brent always finding reasons to help Dad with paperwork. Brent taking Mom out to lunch and coming back with her giggling like she'd had a few drinks. Brent calling me kiddo, even though we were close in age, like he needed to put me under his boot without being obvious. And the biggest one, the way Dad started looking at me like I was a problem he had to solve. I swallowed hard. "You're really doing this, you're giving him everything." Dad's voice went cold. "We're giving him what he earned." My ears rang. I could hear the AC hum, the tiny click of someone's pen, the faint traffic outside. I could smell the lemon cleaner on the table and the peppermint gum Brent chewed like he owned the air in the room. I stood up slowly. "So what am I supposed to do now? Just vanish?" Mom nodded toward the door. "That would be best, yes." I stared at her, really stared. This was the woman who used to braid my hair before school. The woman who cried when I got my first paycheck and told me she was proud. Now she was looking at me like a stain. My voice came out quiet. "You're not even gonna say you're sorry." Dad didn't answer. Brent gave a tiny sigh like I was exhausting him, then Dad nodded at the lawyers. "Let's finish this." That's when I noticed the folder in front of the lead attorney, thick, tabbed, my name printed on a label. My stomach dropped again. "Why is my name on that?" Mom's smile came back. "Because you're officially removed, no more title, no more access, no more shares." Shares, that word hit different, because the truth was I wasn't just an employee. Years ago, Dad had waved a document at me during a chaotic week and told me to sign to make things easier. I'd trusted him, I'd signed, I hadn't even read it. I'd always thought it made me safer. Now I realized it might have been a leash. I grabbed the folder, but Dad snapped, "Don't touch that." The attorney reached forward, calm. "Please don't." I yanked it anyway, flipping it open. Pages, numbers, boxes, signatures. My eyes blurred, but one line was clear as day: transfer of interest, subject to consent of all parties. My heart pounded. Consent of all parties? The attorney's mouth tightened. He looked at Dad, then at Mom, then at Brent. That's when the second attorney, quiet until now, stood up. He cleared his throat and said, "Actually, there's a problem with this sale." And in that single word, actually, I felt the room tilt, like the truth was finally about to bite somebody back. If the sale had a problem, why were my parents so confident, and why did Brent look like he'd just swallowed glass? The quiet attorney stayed standing. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Actually, there's a problem with this sale, he said again, slower. It can't close the way it's written. Dad's eyes narrowed. Explain. The attorney tapped the folder like it was a ticking bomb. Your ownership structure isn't clean. One signature is missing, and without it, the transfer is invalid. I blinked. Missing mine? Brent's gums stopped chewing just for a second. Then he forced it again like he could grind his nerves into powder. Mom laughed, light and fake. Oh, please, she doesn't own anything. The attorney looked at her, polite but firm. Ma'am, she does. Dad's face went stiff. No, that's not right. The attorney flipped to a tab and slid the page forward. Here, Class B voting shares. Held in her name, it's tied to the family trust. My stomach turned. The room felt too bright, too sharp, like somebody cranked the lights just to watch me sweat. A trust? I said. What trust? Dad's voice came fast. That's old. That's nothing, it was a temporary thing. The attorney didn't even blink. It's not temporary, it's active. Mom's smile cracked at the edge. Who told you that? I read the records, he said. It's my job. I stared at Dad. So all those times you told me I had no shares, you lied? Dad leaned forward, jaw tight. You're twisting this. You're not an owner. You're a child who got her name put on a paper to make Grandma happy. Grandma. That name hit me like a slap. I saw her again in my head, short, tough hands always smelling like soap and metal. She used to walk the factory floor in heels like she dared anyone to question her. She'd say, "This place feeds families, don't play with people's paychecks." When I was little, she'd put me on a stool in the break room and let me stir sugar into her coffee. One day, she'd whisper, "You'll run this, not them." You? I used to think she was just being sweet. Now I wasn't so sure. Mom waved a hand like she was shooing a fly. Even if she has something, she signed it away. Dad latched onto that fast. Yes, she signed years ago. She agreed. I felt my face go hot. What are you talking about? Dad pointed at me like I was lying. Don't do that, you know what you signed. I did, a paper during a messy week, to make things easier, his words. Back then, I was tired. I trusted him. I didn't ask questions. I just wanted the fighting to stop. The attorney cleared his throat. There is a proxy document in the file, yes, but it doesn't cover this transaction. It also has conditions. Dad snapped. Conditions? The attorney nodded. It required full disclosure before any sale, and it required her consent at the time of sale, not a blanket signature from years ago. I sucked in a breath. My hands were cold now, like my blood left my fingers. Brent finally spoke, soft like he was trying to calm a wild dog. Okay, this is getting dramatic. We can fix it. She can sign today. Dad turned to me. Sign? It wasn't a request, it was an order. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You just fired me. So, Dad said, sign anyway. Mom leaned forward, eyes hard. Stop being stubborn. You'll still get something? Something? I repeated. You mean crumbs. Brent slid his chair closer, voice low. Look, we can cut you a check, a nice one. You walk away. Easy. I stared at him. Why are you so desperate for my signature if I don't matter? His eyes flicked to Dad. Quick, guilty. That was my first solid proof right there. Not words, not vibes, a reflex. Dad's knuckles whitened on the table. You're holding up a deal that helps this family. I shook my head. No, this helps you, and it helps Brent. Mom rolled her eyes. You always make yourself the victim. My throat tightened. I'm not the victim. You're selling the company I bled for. You're handing it to a guy who barely knows our people's names. Dad stood up, looming. You want to play hard? Fine, you'll regret it. The lead attorney raised a palm. Sir, threats aren't helpful. Dad ignored him, his stare locked on me. Sign or you'll get nothing. I stood too, my chair screeched again. I already have nothing. You took my job, my key card, my name on the door. So what's left for you to take? Brent's phone buzzed on the table. He flipped it over fast, too fast, but I still saw it, a preview of a message, and in that tiny line of text I caught the words, I got her signature. Don't worry, my whole body went still, because I hadn't signed a damn thing today, and if Brent was saying he got my signature, that meant the next move wasn't just betrayal, it was a setup. If Brent already had my signature, then what exactly was he planning to shove in front of those lawyers, and how far back did my parents help him fake it? I kept my face calm, but inside I was boiling. Brent's phone message was still burned into my brain. I got her signature, don't worry. That wasn't a typo, that wasn't a joke, that was a plan. I looked at Dad, then Mom, then Brent. Okay, I said, real quiet. If I'm so useless, why are you all sweating my name on paper? Dad's eyes flashed. We're not sweating, we're tired of your attitude. Mom leaned back and crossed her arms. You always think people are out to get you. Brent gave me a soft little smile. Nobody's out to get you, this is just a clean break. A clean break, like I was a bad habit. I nodded like I believed them. Fine. Then show me what you want me to sign. Dad shoved a pen toward me. Right now, no, I said, not like that, I want to read it, all of it. Brent's smile twitched. The lead attorney opened his mouth, then shut it again. Like he didn't want to be the bad guy, but he also didn't want a mess. Dad leaned forward. You don't get to make demands, you're not an owner. The quiet attorney, still standing, said, she is an owner. Enough to slow this down. Dad's nostrils flared. Mom tapped her nails on the table, fast and angry. That right there told me everything. If this was harmless, they wouldn't be acting like I just pulled a pin on a grenade. I reached for the folder again, slow this time. I'm reading. Dad grabbed the folder first, keeping it close to his chest like it was a baby. No, I didn't fight him, I just stared. So you want my signature, but you don't want me to see what I'm signing? Mom's voice went sharp. Stop turning this into some crime show. I'm not, I said. I'm turning it into my life. Brent stood up like he was trying to be helpful. Look, let's cool down, we can step out for a second, you can breathe. He said it like I was the unstable one, like I was about to flip a table. I forced a small smile. Yeah, I do need a second. Dad pointed toward the door. Go, but don't make this harder than it has to be. I walked out like I was defeated, but the second I hit the hallway, my legs felt stronger. My head got clearer. The building looked the same, white walls, old company photos, the smell of paper and metal, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like someone else's house where I wasn't welcome. I went straight to the break room. My hands were shaking so bad I spilled water down my wrist, cold and sticky. I wiped it on my sleeve, then I called the one person I trusted in that place. Lena, she ran operations. She'd been there since my grandma's time. She didn't gossip, she didn't play games, she just worked. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, you okay? I swallowed. No, I need you to tell me something fast. Has Brent been messing with files? Paperwork? Anything with my name? There was a pause, too long. Lena, I said, don't protect me, just tell me. Her voice dropped low. Last month he asked for the archived documents. Said it was for audit. He took a box to your dad's office. Your dad told me it was approved. My stomach turned. A box of archived documents with old signatures, another pause, then she said, yeah. I closed my eyes. I could picture it now, the old forms, the old copies, the times Dad had me sign quick things when I was young and tired and trusting. I opened my eyes and stared at the vending machine like it could answer me. Lena, I whispered, did anyone notarize anything recently? Any outside notary come in? She exhaled. Brent brought one on a Friday, late, said it was routine. Your mom was there. They used the small conference room. My heart started pounding hard again. Friday, late, private room, notary, my name. I wasn't paranoid, I was late. I lowered my voice even more. I need you to do one thing for me. Don't ask why, just remember everything you saw, dates, times, who walked in, who walked out. Okay, she said, what's happening? I'll tell you soon, I said, just stay ready. I ended the call and stood there, breathing through my nose. The air smelled like microwaved noodles and burnt coffee. Normal, but my whole world wasn't normal anymore. I walked back toward the conference room. Halfway down the hall, I heard it. Brent's voice, muffled, hurried, coming from around the corner. He thought nobody was there. Yeah, he said into his phone. She's stalling, but it's fine. I already have what I need tonight. Move it tonight. My blood went cold. Move what tonight? Money, shares, or something worse? I stepped back fast before he saw me. My heart was slamming so loud I thought it would give me away. Now I had two things, Lena's timeline and Brent's slip. And I knew this wasn't just about kicking me out. This was about erasing me. If Brent was planning to move it tonight, what exactly was he about to steal? And why did it sound like my parents were helping him run with it? When I walked back into the conference room, they all acted like I was the one who needed to apologize. Dad was seated again, calm like a judge. Mom was scrolling her phone like nothing mattered. Brent stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking like he owned the sunlight. Dad tapped the pen on the table. Are you ready to be reasonable now? I sat down slow. I'm ready to be clear. Brent smiled. Good, because this can be easy. I looked at the folder. Before anything, I want to see the page you want me to sign." "Just that page," Mom scoffed. "Here we go again." Dad slid a single sheet toward me, but his fingers stayed on it, like he thought I'd steal it and run. I leaned in and read it. Big words, clean lines. My name typed nice and bold, and right there near the bottom was a signature that looked like mine. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like my insides fell, because it was my signature, or at least it was my old signature. The one I used when I was younger. The loop was tighter. The last line curved in a way I stopped doing years ago, and the date printed beside it said today. I lifted my eyes slowly. "This says I already signed." Dad didn't blink. "Because you did," I let out a short laugh. "No, I didn't." Mom's voice went sharp. "Oh my God, yes you did. You just don't remember because you're always in your feelings." Brent's voice turned gentle, fake soft. "You were emotional earlier. It's okay. That happens." That's when I knew they weren't just trying to push me out. They were trying to make me look crazy while they used my name like a tool. I stared at the paper again. The ink looked fresh. Too fresh? The signature looked like it came from a scan. My mind flashed back to Lena's words. Archived documents, a notary, Friday night. I kept my face neutral. I even nodded a little, like I was confused. "Okay," I said, quiet. "Maybe I'm mixed up." Dad relaxed a hair. Mom's mouth curved, satisfied. Brent's shoulders dropped like he won. I pointed at the line under the signature. "Can I just use the restroom?" "My stomach's messed up." Mom rolled her eyes. "Go." I stood and walked out like I was defeated again, but my heart was racing, fast and focused. I didn't go to the restroom. I went to the small conference room Lena mentioned, the one down the side hall, the one nobody used unless they were hiding something. The door wasn't fully closed. Inside, the lights were off, but I could see a glow, a laptop screen. And I could hear the soft whir of a small machine, a scanner. I stayed quiet and peeked through the crack. Brent was inside with the accountant guy. Papers were spread out like a buffet. There was a stamp on the table, shiny and official looking. "Notary stamp." Brent held a sheet up to the laptop camera, lining it up like he'd done it 1,000 times. The accountant whispered, "If she doesn't sign, we still have the old one." Brent answered, low and annoyed, "We don't need her to sign. We need her to believe she signed." Then he laughed, short, mean, "And if she makes noise, we make her the problem." My skin went cold. I pulled my phone out with shaking fingers and hit record, not because I was brave. Because I needed something real, something that wasn't just my word against theirs. I got 20 seconds. Brent's voice, the accountant's voice, the scanner sound. Then the floor creaked under my shoe. Brent's head snapped up. The door swung open and he stepped out fast, blocking the view like a wall. His smile was gone. "What are you doing?" he hissed. I held my phone tight, looking for the restroom. He stared at me like he wanted to grab the phone out of my hand. Then his fake calm returned. "Down the hall." I walked past him without saying another word. My legs felt like jelly, but I kept moving. Back in the main conference room, Dad was already standing like he'd been waiting to pounce. "Where were you?" he demanded. I sat down and slid the paper back. "I'm not signing anything." Mom's eyes went wide, angry. "After all we've done for you." I looked at her. "You mean after you stole my name and put it on a sale?" Dad's face turned red. "Watch your mouth." Brent walked in behind me, smooth again, like he'd never hissed at me in a dark room. "She's spiraling," he said to them, like I wasn't there. "This is what I warned you about." Mom pointed at me. "See, this is why we can't trust her. She's unstable." Unstable. That word hit like a punch. Because it wasn't just an insult, it was a strategy. Dad leaned closer, voice low. "If you keep this up, you'll regret it. You'll lose everything. Friends, reputation, work, you'll be nothing." Brent nodded like he was concerned. "Just go home, rest. You're not thinking straight." I stared at all three of them and realized something simple and horrible. They weren't trying to convince me. They were trying to rewrite reality until I stopped fighting. I stood up. "Fine. I'm leaving." Dad waved toward the door like I was trash. "Good." As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A new message, unknown number, just 6 words. "Tonight, midnight, her name goes on it." My blood turned to ice. Because I finally understood what "move it tonight" meant. They weren't just selling the company. They were about to dump something dirty onto my name and let me take the fall while they walked away clean. If they were planning to pin their midnight move on me, what exactly were they about to do, and how do I hit them first without them seeing it coming? I didn't go home to cry. I went home to think. My apartment smelled like old takeout and laundry soap. I tossed my keys in a bowl so hard they bounced out. My hands were still shaking, so I ran them under cold water until my fingers went numb. Then I replayed the recording. Brent, we don't need her to sign, we need her to believe she signed. And the other guy, if she doesn't sign, we still have the old one. I sat on my couch and stared at my wall like it was a screen. The unknown text kept flashing in my head too. Tonight, midnight, her name goes on it. My name goes on what? At 10:37 p.m. I called Lena again. She answered right away. I've been waiting. Meet me at the warehouse, I said. Back entrance, 10 minutes. There was a pause. You sure? No, I said, but I'm doing it anyway. When I got there, the parking lot was dark and empty. The building looked huge at night, quiet, cold, like it was holding its breath. I used the side door code I'd had for years. It still worked. That made my stomach twist. They fired me but forgot to lock me out. That's how sure they were. Lena was waiting by the loading dock in a hoodie, arms crossed. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. Talk, she said. I told her everything. Dad, Mom, Brent, the signature, the scanner, the message. Lena didn't gasp. She didn't do drama. She just listened, jaw tight, like she was stacking bricks in her head. When I finished, she said, okay, midnight means they're doing something after hours, something they don't want staff to see. I nodded. I think they're putting something dirty on me. Lena stared at the floor for a second, then looked up. There's one more thing I didn't tell you earlier. My chest tightened. What? She swallowed. 2 weeks ago, Brent asked me for your old personnel file, your original hiring stuff, your signature samples. My stomach dropped. He what? I said no, she told me. He went to your dad. 5 minutes later, your dad told me to hand it over. I felt my throat burn. So Dad helped him? Lena's voice was flat. Yeah, I leaned against a pallet, breathing hard. The air smelled like dust, oil, and cardboard. Sounds echoed in the big space, every little breath, every small step. What do they want to do at midnight? I asked. Lena hesitated. Then she said, there's a private lender coming, not a bank. A guy who does fast money. My skin went cold. How do you know? Because I saw the calendar invite Brent printed, she said. He left it on the copier. It said, midnight closing, bridge funding, fast money. Dirty paper. I looked at Lena. So they're taking a loan in my name, or putting your name on the guarantee, she said. So if it blows up, you're the one stuck holding the mess. I clenched my fists. That's what her name goes on it means. Lena nodded once. Yeah, I stared into the dark warehouse. The lights above were half off. The shadows looked like they had teeth. Okay, I said. I want them to think I'm alone and scared. Lena lifted an eyebrow. And you're not? I'm scared, I admitted, but I'm not alone. Lena walked to her office door and unlocked it. Come inside. Her office was small and warm. Space heater humming, coffee smell, a little fan clicking. She pulled out a ring binder from a drawer and set it on the desk like it weighed 100 pounds. What's that? I asked. Lena's eyes stayed on mine. Your grandma's rules. Stuff she made me keep copies of. She didn't trust anyone, not even your parents. My heart thumped hard. What kind of stuff? Lena opened it. Old notes, old policies, and one page with a bold heading. Emergency control, trigger conditions. I didn't understand all the words, but I understood enough. If someone tried to move ownership without proper consent, certain controls could lock down access to money and authority inside the business. Like a deadbolt, Grandma built a trap for her own kids. I exhaled slow. She knew, Lena nodded. She always knew. I looked up. Can we trigger it? Lena pointed to a line. It needs 2 things, proof of bad intent. And a witness who isn't family. My phone felt heavy in my pocket. I have proof. Lena picked up her keys. And you have a witness. I stared at her. You'll do this with me? Lena's mouth tightened. I loved your grandma. And I'm tired of watching snakes run the place. My chest filled with something hot and steady. Okay, I said, here's the plan. I leaned in and spoke low, simple, direct. At midnight I would show up like I was breaking. Like I'd changed my mind. I'd ask to talk. I'd bait Brent into running his mouth. I'd keep him talking just long enough. Lena would bring one more person, Cal, the night security supervisor. He wasn't family. He didn't owe my parents anything, and he had access to the camera system. If Brent tried to stamp my name onto anything, we'd catch it, and then we'd slam Grandma's deadbolt so hard it would rattle their teeth. Lena checked the time. 11:41. She looked at me. You ready to walk back into the lion's mouth? I swallowed. My mouth was dry again. No, I said, but I'm hungry too. Right then, my phone buzzed again, another text from the unknown number. Don't be late or we ruin you. I stared at the words until they blurred, then I typed back 2 words, calm as ice, see you. If they thought midnight was when they'd destroy me, what happens when I show up smiling and the trap snaps shut with them inside it? At 11:58 p.m., the building felt like a different planet. No phones ringing, no forklifts beeping, just that dead quiet and the hum of lights that never fully shut off. The air smelled like dust and cold metal. I walked in through the front like I still belonged there. My badge still worked. That alone told me Dad didn't forget to lock me out. He wanted me to come back. He wanted the story to end with me signing and leaving like a good little problem that cleaned itself up. Lena stayed back out of sight. Cal was already in the security room. We had one simple rule: I talk, they watch. The conference room door was half open. Dad was inside, Mom too. Brent stood near the small conference room entrance, smiling like this was a party he threw just to watch me choke. And there he was, another man I didn't know, mid-40s, clean shoes, cold eyes, the type who doesn't blink much. The lender, next to him sat a woman with a neat bun and a stamp kit. Notary. Brent spread his hands. There she is, knew you'd come around. I forced my shoulders to slump. I forced my voice to crack. I don't want problems. I don't want my life ruined. Dad's face softened in that fake way he used when he wanted something. Then do the right thing. Mom tilted her head like I was a stray animal. Sign and go. Simple. Brent stepped closer and lowered his voice. We'll take care of you, you'll get a check, clean exit. I looked at him and tried not to spit in his face. Instead, I nodded. Okay. Brent's smile got bigger. Good. He guided me into the small conference room like a handler walking a dog. Same room Lena told me about, same room I caught the scanner. The lights were bright now, too bright. The table was covered in paper. Brent slid a pen toward me. Just sign here. I stared at the signature line, then I looked at the date. Today. I swallowed and played dumb. I'm shaking. Can I see it closer? Brent sighed like I was annoying. Seriously, I just want to make sure, I whispered. I don't want to mess up. He leaned over the page, pointing, and that's when I saw it again, my signature already sitting there faint like it had been printed and traced. I looked up at him wide-eyed. Wait, didn't I already sign? Brent froze for half a second. Half a second was all I needed, then he laughed fast. Yeah, earlier, remember you were upset. I nodded slowly like my brain was struggling. Right. Behind him, Dad's voice cut in. Stop stalling. I blinked at Dad. I'm trying to cooperate. The lender cleared his throat. We doing this or not? Brent snapped back into his smooth voice. Yes. We're doing it. He turned to the notary. We're good. The notary reached for her stamp. My heart hammered so hard I thought they'd hear it. I leaned forward, trembling on purpose. Can I ask one thing, just one thing? Mom's voice was sharp. What now? I looked at her. If I sign, I want the money tonight, not later. I don't trust later. Dad's mouth tightened. You don't get to negotiate. I kept my eyes watery. Then I don't sign. That quiet attorney line from earlier played in my head. They don't need my signature. They need me to believe I signed. So I pushed. I made them argue. I made them show their hand. Brent tried to sound calm. We can wire it. We just need the documents processed. I nodded. Show me the wire info. Mom stood up, angry. You're unbelievable. Dad stepped closer. Sign. Now? And Brent, stupid, cocky Brent leaned in and whispered, you already signed, okay? This is just to make it look clean. Don't make me make you the problem. Make me make you the problem? My stomach flipped. I kept my face soft. I kept my voice small. Don't say that, please. But inside I was smiling because Cal was listening and Lena was listening. And the camera in the ceiling, tiny black dot, was staring right down at us. I reached into my pocket like I was grabbing tissues. Instead, I pressed my phone screen twice. A simple code Lena gave me, trigger ready. Somewhere in the building, Cal hit record on the main system. Somewhere in the hallway, Lena started walking toward the door with the binder tucked under her arm like a weapon made of paper. Brent didn't notice any of it. He just slid the paper closer and tapped the signature line like he owned my hand. Do it, he said, so I picked up the pen, and I wrote 2 words big and clear right across the signature line under duress. Brent's smile died. What the hell is that? Dad lunged forward. Are you kidding me? The lender stood up fast. I'm not funding this circus. The notary pulled her stamp back like it burned, and then Brent's phone buzzed, then Dad's, then Mom's. 3 buzzes in a row like a countdown. Brent checked his screen first, his face turned gray. "Access denied," he whispered. Dad grabbed his phone, eyes wild. "What is this?" Mom's voice went thin. "Why can't I log in?" I leaned back in my chair, calm now. "Because Grandma built a deadbolt and you just proved you deserve it." Brent's eyes snapped to me, pure hate. "You did this?" I tilted my head. "No, Brent," I tapped the ceiling camera with my finger. "You did. If their money and control just got locked behind Grandma's deadbolt, what happens when I open the binder and show the one clause that can strip them for good and make Brent beg me in private?" Dad slammed his phone on the table like he could scare it into working. "What did you do?" he barked. Mom kept tapping her screen, her nails clicking fast. "My password isn't wrong, it's not wrong." Brent's face stayed gray. He looked like he was about to throw up. "It's a glitch," he said quick. "It's just a system glitch." I leaned back in the chair and let the quiet stretch. The air felt thick. The lender was already backing toward the door like he didn't want his shoes in this mess. "I don't do chaos," the lender said flat. "Call me when your house is in order." Brent spun on him. "Wait." The lender didn't wait, he was gone. The notary gathered her kit with shaky hands. "I'm not stamping anything with threats on the page," she muttered and followed him out. The door shut. Now it was just us, family, and the truth. Dad turned on me again, voice sharp. "Fix it?" Mom pointed at me like I was a thief. "You're jealous, that's what this is. You can't stand that we moved on without you." Brent stepped closer, low and angry. "You just burned the deal, you know what that costs." I looked at him. "You know what you tried to do to me at midnight?" He blinked hard. "You're imagining things." "Yeah," I said, and I tilted my head toward the ceiling camera. "Then talk louder, say it again." "Tell the camera how I already signed." His mouth opened, nothing came out. Dad's eyes flicked up to the camera, then back to me. "You're recording us?" I shrugged. "You were recording me first. You just didn't know it." Mom's voice got syrupy like she was switching masks. "Honey, you're tired, you're stressed, let's all calm down and no," I cut in, simple, clean, "don't honey me." Mom's face snapped cold again. "Excuse me?" I stood up, my legs weren't shaking now. "You told me I was fired, you told me to get out, you laughed when I asked if you were sorry." Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing rage. "You're still our daughter." I stared at him. "Not when you need me, only when you want to control me." Brent moved fast, grabbing the folder like he meant to rip it up, but the door opened behind him. Cal stepped in, big shoulders, calm eyes. He didn't rush, he didn't shout, he just stood there like a wall. "Hands off," Cal said. Brent froze. "Who the hell are you?" Cal didn't blink. "Security." "And the cameras are rolling." Brent's face tightened. He let go of the folder like it stung. Then Lena walked in. She had the binder tucked under her arm and she looked like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. Dad's voice turned sweet, fake again. "Lena, great, tell her to stop this nonsense." Lena didn't even look at him. She set the binder on the table and opened it right in front of them. Mom's eyes widened. "Where did you get that?" Lena finally looked up. Her voice was calm, but it carried. "Your mother made me keep it because she didn't trust you too." Dad's lips curled. "That's not true." Lena tapped the page with her finger. "It's true. And it's signed by her, not you." Brent tried to laugh. "Okay, so what? Old papers, old drama." Lena's finger slid down to a line and stopped. "Emergency control, triggered by bad intent, witnessed by non-family. Recorded." Dad's face changed, the anger cracked and fear showed underneath. Mom swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" "It means," Lena said, "you can't touch company money, you can't approve transfers, you can't pull payroll. You can't lock people out, you can't sell anything." Dad's voice shook with rage. "This is my company." I stepped closer. "You sold it, remember?" His eyes snapped to me, wild. "Turn it off." I shook my head. "I can't." That wasn't even a lie because Grandma's deadbolt wasn't a switch, it was a trap. You don't turn off a trap once it's snapped. Brent's voice went thin. Okay, let's talk like adults." "What do you want?" I looked at him slow. "I want my name back." Mom scoffed, but her voice wobbled. "You already have your name." "No," I said, "you were about to smear it onto a midnight deal, a dirty loan, a guarantee. Something that would choke me for years." Dad growled. "We were protecting the family." I smiled a little. "Not nice." "You were protecting yourselves." I reached into my pocket and played my next card. I didn't show the video yet. I showed the text. I slid my phone across the table so they could read it. Tonight, midnight, her name goes on it. Mom's lips parted. Dad went silent. Brent stared at the message like it was a gun pointed at his head. That's not from me, I nodded. Maybe, but it's about me. Then I leaned in, close enough for Brent to smell my shampoo, close enough for my parents to hear every word. Here's what's going to happen, I said, simple and calm. You three are going to sign a clean resignation from control. Tonight, right now, no yelling, no games. Dad's face went purple. Never. I tilted my head. Then you can sit here all night while the deadbolt keeps you locked out and I let your midnight friend call you every 5 minutes until you crack. Brent's throat bobbed. You don't have that kind of power. I looked him dead in the eye. I do now. Lena slid a blank paper toward Dad with a pen. Cal stood behind him like a shadow. Mom's voice came out small, angry, scared. You can't do this to us. I smiled again, still not nice. You did it to me first. Dad stared at the pen like it was poison. Brent stared at the door like he was thinking about running, and that's when I realized something sweet. They weren't fighting me anymore. They were scared of me. But fear wasn't enough for what I wanted, so I opened Grandma's binder to the next page and found the clause that could cut them off personally, not just from the company. I flipped Grandma's binder to the next page. The paper was old, a little yellow at the edges. The ink looked darker, like it had been pressed hard on purpose. At the top, in plain bold words, it said, "Personal freeze, family benefit block." Mom leaned in. Dad's breathing got loud. Brent tried to look bored, but his throat moved like he was swallowing rocks. Lena read it out loud, slow and clear so nobody could pretend they didn't understand. If any controlling party attempts to place liability on a beneficiary through force, deception, or false signature, then all personal benefits tied to the trust are suspended. Dad scoffed. That's not real. Lena tapped the bottom of the page. It's real and it's activated. Mom's lips went pale. What benefits? Lena didn't smile. Your house, your family cards, the travel account, the monthly deposits. The owner perks you two live on. Dad's face twitched. That house is mine. I shook my head. No, Dad, it's Grandma's. It's in the trust. Silence hit the room like a slap. Mom's voice came out thin. You're lying. Lena slid another page forward. Property info, plain and simple. My mom stared at it, blinking fast like her eyes could erase it. Dad's hands clenched into fists. You can't take our home. I kept my voice calm. You tried to put a midnight debt on my name. You tried to make me the fall guy. Brent jumped in quick, trying to steer it. This is too much. Everyone's emotional. Let's shut up, I said. My tone made even Dad pause. Brent's eyes flared. Excuse me. I leaned closer. You're the reason we're here. He laughed bitter. You don't have proof. Cal cleared his throat behind him. Actually, we do. Brent stiffened. Cal walked to the table and placed a small clear evidence bag down like it was nothing. Inside was a cheap second phone, a burner. Brent's face went empty. That's not mine. Cal's voice stayed flat. Camera caught you putting it in your bag at 11:52. You want me to replay it? Brent's eyes flicked to the ceiling camera, then to the door, then back to me. Mom stared at the burner phone like it was a snake. Brent forced a smile. Come on, that could be anyone's. I picked up my own phone and turned the screen toward them. Unknown number, tonight, midnight, her name goes on it. Cal nodded once. We pulled the logs from the building Wi-Fi. That burner pinged here all night. Dad's jaw dropped a little, like his rage finally met reality. Mom's voice shook. So you threatened her? Brent's face twisted. I was helping you. You wanted the deal? Dad took one step toward Brent. You said she'd sign. Brent snapped back, defensive. And she would have if she wasn't a psycho. I cut in, quiet and sharp. Say that again. Brent shut his mouth. Because now he understood. He didn't have power in this room anymore. He was just a man who got caught. Dad turned to me, voice low and ugly. Okay, fine, he's dirty, but you this is too far. I looked at him. Too far is firing your own kid and laughing in her face. Mom's eyes filled, but not with guilt, with fear. You're going to ruin us, she whispered. I nodded once. Yeah. I am. Lena slid 2 documents across the table, simple and clean. 1, she said, tapping the first, voluntary resignation from control, effective immediately, both of you. She tapped the second. 2, removal of Brent from any role, any access, any future, signed by you, tonight. Dad stared at the pen like it was a knife. Mom's voice cracked. If we sign, do we get our house back? I shrugged. Maybe, Dad's head snapped up. Maybe? I leaned forward and lowered my voice so it was just us in that moment, me, Mom, and Dad. You wanted me broke and blamed, I said. So now you're going to feel that fear every morning when you wake up. Mom started to cry. Soft at first, then ugly. You're cruel. I didn't deny it. I just said, you taught me. Brent tried to move toward the door. Cal stepped sideways and blocked him, not touching him, just there. Brent looked at me, eyes burning. You think you won? You don't know what you just started. I smiled a little. Oh, I know. I pointed at the second paper. Sign him out. Dad's hands shook as he grabbed the pen. He looked like he wanted to hit me, hug me, and scream all at once. Then he signed. Mom signed too, tears dropping onto the paper, smearing the ink. Brent watched it happen like someone was cutting his throat slow. When it was done, Lena gathered the papers and tucked them into the binder. I stood up and walked to the door. Mom's voice followed me, small and broken. Where are we supposed to go? I paused at the doorway. The hallway lights were harsh. The air smelled like cold coffee and metal. I turned back and said, anywhere you want. Then I added, real calm, just not in my life. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. A new message, this time from Lena. Freeze confirmed. Their cards just declined. I didn't smile wide, I just breathed out slow, because that was the point. Not to scream, not to win loud, to watch the world they built on my back collapse in silence. But I wasn't done, because Brent still had one last weapon, and by sunrise he was going to try to use it unless I hit him first. By morning, my phone had 4 missed calls from Dad, 3 from Mom, and 0 from Brent. That last part felt wrong. Brent was never quiet, not unless he was planning something. I drove to the building right after sunrise. The sky was pale and cold, and the streets were empty like everyone else got to sleep through my life falling apart. When I pulled into the lot, Cal was already outside. He lifted his chin at the front door. He came back at 5:12. My stomach tightened. Brent, Cal nodded, tried the side entrance, tried the office, tried the server closet. He kept saying he forgot something, and Cal's mouth didn't move much when he spoke, and now he's sitting in his car watching the door like a stray dog. I looked over. Brent's car was parked crooked like he stopped fast. His face was half hidden behind his windshield glare, but I could still feel his eyes on me. Lena walked up beside me, binder tucked under her arm like always. He thinks he can scare you, she said. I exhaled slow. Let's end it. We didn't march in like heroes. We didn't make a scene. We just went inside and used a small meeting room off the lobby, the one with no windows and a cheap gray carpet. Cal went out and brought Brent in. The second Brent stepped through the door, his mask dropped. You think you're cute, he snapped. You think you won? I didn't sit, I stayed standing. Say what you came to say. Brent's eyes were bloodshot, his hair looked slept on. He smelled like stale mint and panic. You locked me out, he hissed. You froze the deal, you made me look like an idiot. I tilted my head. You did that yourself. He leaned forward, voice low and nasty. I can still ruin you. Lena didn't even blink. With what? Your fake signature? Brent's jaw jumped. You don't know what I have. I reached into my pocket and set my phone on the table. I didn't play the recording. I didn't need to, I just said, I have enough. Brent's eyes flicked to it. He swallowed. Then he tried another angle, soft voice, fake regret. Look, he said, spreading his hands. Your parents dragged me into it. They begged me. I was trying to help. I stared at him. You texted threats, you scanned papers, you said you'd make me the problem. He shook his head like he could shake the truth right out of the air. You're twisting words. Cal spoke from the corner. We have it on camera. Brent's face changed again. Now he looked trapped. And when Brent felt trapped, he got mean. He pointed at me. Fine, here's my last move. I walk into that warehouse and tell everyone you're the reason payroll might get delayed. I tell them you're stealing the company from your own parents. I make you a villain. Dad's favorite trick, Mom's favorite trick, make me the monster so they could sleep at night. I nodded slowly. Okay, Brent blinked. Okay? I slid one sheet across the table, just one, big letters, simple lines, voluntary exit, no compensation, no contact, no access. Brent laughed, sharp. What is this? A door, I said, for you. His smile vanished. I'm not signing that. Lena opened Grandma's binder to a page she'd marked with a sticky note. She tapped one sentence. Any non-family actor involved in deception loses all promised or pending benefit. Lena read, simple and cold. Brent's face tightened. That's not real. I leaned in. The lender you brought, he doesn't like games, he doesn't like delays, and he really doesn't like being lied to." Brent's throat moved. "You talked to him?" "I didn't have to," I said. "He watched you panic last night. He watched you try to stamp a paper that said under duress. He already knows you're messy." Brent's voice got smaller. "So what, you're gonna go cry to him?" I shook my head. "No, I'm gonna do nothing," he frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not saving you," I said. "I'm not fixing your problems. I'm not giving you a soft landing." I pushed the pen closer to him. "You sign this," I said, "and you walk out with your dignity, whatever's left of it." His eyes burned. "And if I don't?" Cal's voice stayed calm. "Then you leave anyway." Brent stared at the pen for a long time. His hand shook when he finally grabbed it. He signed. The second he did, Lena gathered the paper, stood up, and walked it straight to the lockbox in her office. No drama. No speech, just click, gone. Brent looked at me like he wanted to spit something venomous, but his shoulders sagged instead. "You turned into them," he muttered. I looked him in the eye. "No," I opened the door for him. "I turned into what they were scared I could be." Brent walked out without another word. After he left, Lena exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. Cal nodded once and went back to his post. I walked down the main hall alone. The building was waking up. I could hear distant voices, a forklift starting, the familiar clank of work beginning again. The smell of coffee drifted from the break room. Someone laughed. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small in my own life. I felt steady. And when my phone lit up again with Mom's name, I didn't answer. I just kept walking. I didn't get my family back, but I got myself back.